All right. Okay. So this is a segment where we're actually gonna read poetry. Okay. So we're actually gonna read two. So because this is, we're gonna focus on mental health. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. I wanted to actually dedicate a few things to this. And at times I don't like hearing a poem. I don't like reading a poem twice because the second time I feel like all I'm worried about is the meaning of it and not necessarily the story being told at times. I know that may sound like the same thing, but to me, I promise, it's two completely different things. So there's going to be a poem by Shakespeare. And yes, I'm well aware that a lot of people do not understand what the fuck Shakespeare be talking about half the time, but I just generally love it. And then the second one is going to be by somebody I've never heard of before. But it's not like that old poetry type, old English and stuff like that. So you guys will be all right. Okay, but the very first one, this is a poem by Shakespeare, and we're going to go into it. And it was a speech called "To Be or Not to Be? That is the question." By William Shakespeare. To be or not to be? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to... I forgot to even mention this. Before I even start reading this, I actually decided to go on a poetry website. It's called Poetry Foundation. It's a great website for poetry if you guys listen to me, if you guys like poetry. And the one thing that they do is they have different categories. And I went through their categories, and because in respect to Mental Awareness Month, I decided to go to the part that would actually focus on anxiety and being anxious and stuff like that. That's why I said I didn't feel the need to read them first. At the end of the day, I know the message that they're getting across is relevant to this month. Yeah, baby. All right, let's start this again. Speech, to be or not to be? That is the question. By William Shakespeare. To be or not to be? That is the question. Whether it is nobler to be in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end to them, to die, to sleep no more, and by sleep to say we end the heartache and the thousand of natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devourly to be wished, to die, to sleep perchance to dream. There's the rub, for in that sleep of death what dreams may come, when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life, for those who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the pangs of disparates. I don't even know what that word is, but it's even abbreviated too. So it's kind of like their slang back in the day. I have no idea what that means. And the laws of delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quitus make with a bare bulkin. Who would fart old bears to grunt and sweat under a weary life? But that the dread of something after death, to undiscover a country from whose burn no traveler returns, puzzles the will. It makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others that we know not of. Thus conscience doth make coward of us all, and thus the native you of resolution is sickled over with the pale cast of thought, and enterprises of great pitch and moment with disregard their current turns awry and lose the name of action. All right. And this is one thing that I'm always going to say about poems by Shakespeare. There are going to be a lot of parts where you are not going to fucking understand it. I'm not going to lie to you. There are certain words, it's just like, I don't know what he means. And then the thing you got to understand with Old English, a lot of their slangs was kind of like abbreviating certain words. Like instead, this would normally have the whole entire word. Now they just put a comma and then ER. And then you have to know what the fuck this whole entire word, you only see part of it, but you're trying to know what the fuck it is, but you've never even my point is, it's really hard to hear. But the thing is, a lot of the times when I'm like reading something by Shakespeare, there are going to parts that you understand and is very clear to you. And the thing is, the parts that are supposed to send you a message in poems that are long, there's always going to be part of it that's repetitive. One thing that we've constantly seen that was repetitive was sleep and the idea of death. But they didn't look at death as like an end to it all. But the part where they were looking at death was kind of like a break, a break to this new life, a break to a new world. And the whole part about it being on anxiety and everything like that, if you're trying to like put that together and everything, I think the thing for me is kind of like the message that it was trying to give across was a lot of us deal with this dreadful life, right? And we're all kind of looking for a break from it, where our minds gets to be at ease, where we get to focus on everything else. And the part where it focused on sleep, it kind of went on this idea of dreams, where you get to dream a world where everything happens and it's the way that you want it to be and everything like that. And that's the reason why I feel like I appreciate poem, not just William Shakespeare in general, like however you feel about him or anything like that. I generally don't go fuck about that. I'm gonna be completely honest. But the way that certain messages are put out with Old English, where it's kind of like it's a little harder if you're not paying and constantly picking things out. Like even as I was reading it, I'm like, I get a line down, I understand. I'm like, I could bet this is one message that this is giving, and I keep on reading it, and then you see, does the next line contradict it or does it expand on it? Then it's like, because at times, certain times in poetry, all you're doing is expressing your thought process as you were dealing with something, and seeing if someone's trying to get a message out or if they're trying to show you something that they went through. All of that shit are things I really appreciate about poetry.